Hello and welcome to the Transition Podcast. I'm Josh. I'm currently based in Taipei.
I'm Jesse. I'm in Bristol in England.
Yeah, actually, before we launch into talking about particular albums and particular music, I had the real privilege a few days ago of spending a bit of time with the drummer from a Taiwanese band called Soda Green. To kind of give a bit of background, Soda Green are, well, they're at the top level of bands in the Mandarin music world. I think all over Asia.
And are they independent, which is quite interesting? They rose to fame very much on the back of a lot of hard work by themselves.
Absolutely, they were the first indie band, the first independent band to ever perform in the Taipei Arena, which is, it's a, I think, 12,000 seat indoor arena in Taipei.
Incredible. And
actually, that was a really pioneering move, which was part of their journey as a band. And since then, they, talking to the drummer, he was saying they've taken 3 years off, which is just coming to an end. But before they did that, they were flying to play arena or stadium gigs 40 weekends of the year.
Wow. Wow.
So they had a whole team of between 200 and 300 people who were traveling with them, and that's pretty much every weekend almost.
You say 300?
Yeah, that's right. So they're almost filling their own plane in terms of
crazy.
The people doing the lights and the sound and the technical crew and the dancers and the backup staff and to think to be doing that 40 weekends of the year, and he was saying generally flying, so I guess they're flying to lots of cities all around Asia, but I mean I know they played in the UK as well a number of years ago. I think it was at Liverpool Sound City, of all places.
Oh, right, okay, yep.
And they also recorded an album in London again a few years ago, it was fascinating to talk about his recording experiences as well as live experience, because he was saying, recounting some of the differences between recording an album in London with a British producer, British engineers, and some British session players, to then recording an album in Germany. And they recorded an album, the last album they made actually, with a whole huge kind of orchestral section in Germany. But in Germany, he was saying everything's done to the note. So they would send their demos off to the producer, and he would send back like fully notated versions of every instrument of the demo that they'd sent.
Wow.
It sounded incredible. And if they edited anything and sent it back, just like musically, then he would send back a whole new score of every instrument again. I mean, like, this is the updated version, and we've kept the old version just in case you need to go back to it.
Wow.
It sounded really interesting.
What attention to detail.
Yeah, absolutely. Whereas he said when they were recording in London, it was very much more kind of trying to feel the atmosphere, feel the sounds, and the. He said there was a guy recording a couple of guitar tracks for them, where he thought when he listened to the recording, it was like, oh, I think that's a bit out of tune. And he said, no, the guy was like, no, just wait. And then they slotted it into the track, and it was perfect. And the guy, apparently the guitarist, was like, yep, that's my mojo. So it's just really funny thinking, as an artist, as a musician, and as a producer, actually, the drummer from Soda Green, he's called Xiao Wei. He's also a producer now as well. He's been producing other artists for the past 3 years while Soda Green have been having a break.
Wow.
But to have that kind of background of recording all over the world, because they've recorded in other countries as well, and to get that kind of different cultural aspect of how different people approach being creative with music, and how that is put down into history, as it were. You're capturing that creative moment. yeah, really, it must be really enriching to have all of that different global experience.
Yeah.
So I had a great time talking with him. Something else, Jess, which I haven't told you yet, but that he was saying,
Surprise me.
was that next year will be the year of rock. So, yeah, I was glad to hear that. So guys, you hear it here. 2020 will be the year of rock bands.
Sounds fun.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think if there's any encouragement for Transition to release a new album in 2020, there we are. 2020 will be the year of rock bands, according to Xiao Wei from Soda Green.
We'll take his word for it.
Yeah, well, I guess we have to work to make it reality.
So what else was he sharing about the kind of the scene and his experiences in Taiwan?
Yeah, one thing I was really interested in was, as well, he was talking about the impact of technology on music, which, you know, as a drummer, I think, you know, that's something that, as I think probably all drummers are aware of, just the amount that computers, programming, software has moved to almost replace the drummer as the rhythm section in music. So, well, I mean, not really in rock music, but in, you know, lots of different kinds of genres of music.
Yeah.
You know, technology has been replacing people. Well, I mean, technology has been replacing people in all fields of work, I guess. But it was really interesting to hear him say, again, that a trend for the future is actually that musicianship will become more and more important again, whereas technology has been looking to replace musicians and to kind of play their parts for them because it can be programmed in. His perspective was that actually that's part of a cycle, and actually it's almost like a fashion, but that the reality of the human touch in music, as it were, will be recognized for the importance that it is, and actually that musicianship will start to be I think musicianship will continue to grow in the way that it's valued. So it was really interesting because, you know, you talk to a lot of people in music, and it really is all about how technology will replace people, and that's kind of programming is the way it's going. So to hear someone saying the opposite, that actually, you know, the musicians are going to be even more important moving forward, was, well, as a musician, it was encouraging to hear. I was quite glad to hear that. And I think there is a truth about that. I think, you know, there's nothing wrong with technology being a part of music, but what he was saying was that actually, if you listen to the best albums, what they do is they make technology an extra element that is added into the creative process, rather than simply replacing people. Because if you replace a person, you replace the creativity that person can bring. If you add the technology as an extra element that those people can be creative with, then actually you get something that's much more interesting and much more exciting. And actually then you're able to do something new rather than becoming formulaic, which is the big danger of technology. It is that it becomes formulaic, and because it's easy enough to program this, and that's what's cool and that's what's trendy, so everybody does that. But yeah, so, well, there's a lot that we could talk about, a lot more that I could continue on and on about. But I think one of the really interesting things was I asked him to recommend a Soda Green song. So if you're learning Chinese, or if you are just interested in Mandarin music at all, but you don't know where to start, well, you know, we mentioned this band Soda Green, you don't know where to start. He recommended a song called, in Chinese it's called 空气中的视听与幻觉, which I think is quite a long name. If you want to translate it directly, it's like audio-visual illusion in the atmosphere.
Tricky.
I think that's a good translation. The audio-visual illusion in the atmosphere is the name of the song. And he was saying, just in terms of the way they approached the arrangement of that song, from start to finish with a concept and knowing exactly what they were aiming to do, he felt like that was kind of like a song that reached a new level for them as a band.
No, interesting.
So anyway, we'll post a link up for that song, guys. So you do just click along and listen in to 空气中的视听与幻觉, and you can let us know what you think. But yeah, absolutely, that's where to start, according to Xiaowei, the drummer of Soda Green, if you're interested in their music.
Great.
Right. Well, we said we were going to be reviewing some, really good Mandarin music from 2019. We just mentioned Soda Green. They haven't released anything in 2019 because they're just on the way to coming back from a 3-year break. So that'll be something for 2020. But for me, for 2019, I think if I was going to recommend, I'd like to recommend a few albums. But the first one I think I'd recommend, just for the sake of it's quite different to probably what I would listen to normally, is an album by a female singer called No Chung.
Yeah.
That's ENNO, so I think it's No Chung. And in Chinese, then she's called Zheng Yinong. Zheng Yinong.
Okay.
And actually, I have to confess, I hadn't heard of her before this year. She's released 2 or 3 albums before this one, but this album was produced by our good friend Yu Chain that we've talked about, and one of the things that's fascinating about it is that there's elements of traditional Mandarin pop in there, the kind of piano ballad, but then the first song, it feels quite slow, a little bit floaty, and very soft female vocal Mandarin pop style, and then the second song comes in and it's completely different. It's like a different artist almost.
Wow.
You've got this almost little funk sounding electro kind of sound, but then the drums come in and the whole band comes in, and there's a real groove to it which you wouldn't associate actually with Mandarin pop at all. It's kind of completely different. So from listening to the first song, I thought, oh, this is quite nice. It's quite, quite maybe not normal, but it's quite similar to Mandarin pop. And the second song comes in, and I was like, oh wow, this is cool. And I got halfway through it, and I was like, hang on a second, this isn't Mandarin either. She's singing in Taiyu, in the Taiwanese dialect. And then the third song is back to Mandarin again. And then a few songs later, it's back to Taiyu again. So
wow.
I thought that was cool, the kind of switching between languages. Just, again, it's kind of a cultural thing. In some ways, I think in the UK, we don't get that much of, generally an album's always in English, isn't it? And that's it. You might have the odd word of a foreign language in, but
yeah, that's true.
I think something in Taiwan, which is a real richness that they have, is there. There's, again, we've talked about our friend Wing singing in Hakka, again, another different dialect. And there's another artist we might talk about next time called Su Ming, who's an Aboriginal Taiwanese singer.
So just to compare it, it's like singing in Welsh instead of English, or singing in Celtic instead of English, isn't it?
Obviously, Mandarin is like that's the standard Chinese dialect, I guess, that everyone...
Official language of mainland, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, that's the official language. Mainland China, Taiwan, Singapore. Mandarin Chinese is kind of in Hong Kong, Cantonese that's another dialect. You've got the Hakka dialect we talked about with Wing, and then you've got the Taiwanese dialect, which actually comes from Fujian province. And they call it Mingnanyu. But yeah, without going too deep into different languages and dialects, just the fact that in one album, the singer's switching so naturally from one to the other.
Yeah, that is great, isn't it?
I think it was really nice because it provides a completely different atmosphere. And actually, from being able to understand the first song to then not being able to understand the second song. I kind of really enjoyed that. So then it was a completely different listening experience from, I understand what you're singing about and I'm trying to understand the story behind the song, to the next song, like, I don't have a clue what you're singing about, but I really like the groove and the atmosphere is brilliant. So the thing that convinced me then was my 2-year-old son, who was listening for the first time, heard it and said, "Try again."
Try again.
So if he wanted to hear it again, I think it means it must be good. So and then as you carry on through the album, there's a variation of different styles, but it's a really nice mix. A little bit like Xiao Wei, the Soda Green drummer, was talking about. In this album, it's done really well. The mix between instrumentation, the kind of human creativity and technology, it's mixed really well. So that stood out to me. I think I'd certainly recommend to anyone who thinks that what Mandarin pop is like, then listen to this album from No Chung first, from Zheng Yinong, and then see if that fits into the box or not, because I think it doesn't really, but it kind of is great at the same time. So yeah, that's my one for this week that I would like to recommend.
That's good. So it's on all the main platforms, is it? You can listen to it.
Yes,
there.
That's right. We'll link that album and particularly the second song that I was talking about. We'll link that one. It's called, in English, it's been translated as "At a Rainy Night, Would You Walk Me Home?"
Great.
So yeah, that's one to listen to, definitely. We'll be back with at least one or two recommendations of 2019's best Mandarin albums next time.
That's right.
But in the meantime, Jess, do you want to just fill people in a little bit on what we've been up to this week?
Yeah, and I was in London yesterday. Yeah, I mean, the real reason I was there is a bit of a sad one, in that I was producing a podcast for a famous TV presenter who was called Richard Lindley, and sadly he died a few weeks ago. And so I went to his funeral, and actually it was an incredibly moving event, a very fitting tribute for Richard. And yeah, so that was why I was there, really, going to celebrate his life, pay my respects, and also, I suppose, hear some more of the stories of what he was like before I knew him, because I obviously knew him in his latter years, after he had been all around the world reporting in different countries like Iraq, Bangladesh, Vietnam, during lots of war times, and even ITN News, so that's like TV news in the UK. And there were so many reporters there and various people involved in the media who all said how much they appreciated Richard's honesty and integrity. And it's sad, but it's also, there's a lot of joy in appreciating what somebody has done and the kind of the legacy that they leave. And it was definitely a very positive legacy that Richard left.
Yeah. Oh, that's really good. I mean, I think it's really important, isn't it, to actually celebrate the good and the positive that people do in life, and to keep telling those stories. I think that's really good.
Great. Well, next week then, let's catch up on another Mandarin album, one of the top ones that we think is really worth mentioning and worth sharing with everybody. Thanks for your time.
Absolutely. And if you're listening to the podcast on YouTube, then various things will pop up on the screen in terms of Chinese words and pictures. We'll have links for all the artists we've mentioned in the description box below. Also, I mean, do click through to other music videos that we've got on there. We'll be updating the podcast pretty much every week. And if you're listening to an audio version only, then as I say, come through to the Transition YouTube if you want more visual stuff. Otherwise, you can go to our website, transition.tk, or the Facebook, or follow us on Instagram, all of the usual channels. So thanks very much, guys. And do leave your questions as well. We love hearing from people. And we'll be back again next week.